had some excitement around here last night. Were any of you here last night? Maybe a few hands? Okay. Well, the rest of you need to know what went on in this place. Last evening, we had a very rare opportunity. ABC invited us to host a very special taping of Nightline. And that took place here in our sanctuary last night. It involved a debate with two very well-known Christians. One of them is Pastor Ray Comfort from Calvary Chapel in California, and the actor that some of you remember growing up with, Kirk Cameron. And they were here to share their testimonies, and they were here to engage in a very vigorous debate with two atheists who represent the Blasphemy Project. Now, the Blasphemy Project is an aggressive effort to disprove the existence of God in the minds of our youth, and they have a website that is becoming quite popular. So ABC asked us to bring 50 Christians and asked the other group to bring 50 atheists to make up the audience. Obviously, we couldn't, because of that, we couldn't open it to the whole church, and we couldn't make a general announcement, but we did invite 50 people to be here, and it was quite interesting. I don't know that I have ever been in a situation where the stark contrast of light and darkness was so profound as it was in this very place last night. It was interesting to watch as the atheists gathered on the sidewalk in front of the church under our sign. And you know what that sign says. And here are 50 atheists gathering there, asking each other questions and talking to passers-by before they were ushered in to sit here in these seats among 50 believers and to be the audience for this very interesting program that will air, by the way, Wednesday night at 11:30. So stay up late, TiVo, do something. You don't want to miss this. We don't know how much of it that they will show, but it was interesting. I saw a real difference in attitude and demeanor between the groups. Now, we were all sitting together, so there wasn't, you people on one side and you people on the other. We were just all mixed up together, but you could tell a difference. And I'm not the only one that commented about that, noticed it. I sensed, and others seemed to as well, kind of an overwhelming arrogance, a determination to belittle, and even a little edgy anger on the part of many who came into our building last night. Pastor Epstein pointed out this morning that for 50 people who claim to not believe in God, they sure seemed mad at him. And I thought that was pretty interesting. A portion of the debate, as I mentioned, will be aired Wednesday evening. I think the entire debate will be on the ABC website, and so if you can find that, be kind of interesting. I hope they don't edit out Kirk Cameron's testimony. It was quite powerful, his personal testimony. And then the clear presentation Ray Comfort made of the gospel. I hope those things make the cut because it was pretty significant. Both of these gentlemen were very, very articulate. They were poised. They were very compelling. But I also hope the camera is able to capture some of the hostility of the two atheists who literally lashed out at the Christian view and really laughed in the face of God. It was quite disturbing to witness that. I told Kirk and Ray after the taping that I was very proud of the way they handled the hostility that was in the room. They were true Christian gentlemen in that sense. The two speakers were not the only hostile ones in the room. This morning, Pastor mentioned a lady who stood up from the back over here and really insisted that Ray and Kirk explain the reality of cancer. If God created us, as they were claiming, and God's so good, then explain cancer. And she was very insistent with that. I think behind some of the hostility and that angry facade she portrayed, there must have been some real fear. It wouldn't surprise me to learn that perhaps a member of her family suffers with cancer, or maybe she herself suffers with cancer. It was a very compelling moment. And I would love to have the opportunity to sit down with that lady and just say to her, as a believer, I hate cancer too. I fear cancer too. I lost my mom to cancer a few years ago. And then 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. And I had to undergo surgery and radiation and a whole lot of fear. And even though I'm coming now to the 5-year anniversary where they say, cancer-free after 5 years, we all look forward to that. But I still live with the real possibility that it could come back someday, or it could show up somewhere else. And so that's very real in my life. But I want to tell you something, folks. This is what I want to tell the lady. I don't like cancer, but I've accepted the reality that we live in a broken and fallen world, and cancer is part of that, and other forms of suffering. Because of the sinfulness of man, bad things happen even to good people. And I would much rather face cancer with a loving God whose Son died for me and conquered death than I would to face it on my own. So even though we may not be able to explain it to her liking, I'm here to testify God's grace is sufficient. And I know many of you are aware of that as well. We're all fearful. We all get a little angry at suffering. We don't like injustice. We don't like war. We're concerned about natural disasters, and we heard about the tornado that devastated a town in Kansas just, was it yesterday, Bob? Yesterday or the day before? And we moved from Oklahoma to New York to get away from those things. We don't like that kind of stuff. We don't like terrorism. We get very angry at those things. We don't like to see people marginalized. There is a lot that's wrong in our world. We don't have to be convinced of that. But the big difference between the two groups of people who were here in this sanctuary last night was that believers also recognized there's a lot that's right with the world. There's a lot that's right, and that's because of the very real presence of a God who created it all and allows it to keep spinning. I believe that with all my heart. I doubt seriously that last night's debate is going to go down in history as a great victory for either side. Some were obviously looking for some kind of scientific proof that God exists and that God is the creator. The only problem with that expectation is there were no scientists on the platform last night. But it was a very interesting cultural exchange, and the gospel was very clearly presented. That's the good part. And I was very proud of the Christians who were here last night, very proud of those representing Calvary. I saw believers reaching out with love, showing compassion, and showing grace while stating their personal faith. That was a beautiful thing to see happen. People were exchanging emails and phone numbers and making arrangements to talk again later at another time and place. Is that not awesome? When's the last time we had that kind of a captive audience? 50 atheists in our sanctuary. Now, some would have a problem with that. I think it was a divine appointment. It was incredible. And I wish we could have snuck all of you in, but ABC just wouldn't let us do it that way. Well, in the eyes of some non-believers, you and I are expected to define and to defend God. And that's pretty tough for us to do because he's even beyond description for those of us who walk in fellowship with him. And it kind of saddens me that some go to great lengths to try to squeeze God into some kind of a concept, a mold that they can manage and manipulate and control, rather than standing in awe of his grace and accepting his love and his forgiveness, as these folks have testified to tonight. Dovey, I wish you would have been here last night. You could have scored some points with that testimony. It was quite something, quite something. But like the skeptics and the critics, sometimes we wonder, can the world get any worse? We wonder that sometimes, don't we? Is it going to get worse before it gets better? What can we do to make it better? Is there anything we can do now in our current condition to make the world a better place? I happen to believe that even on this fast track to the end times that I believe we're on, we who claim to be children of God can make the world a better place. I believe we can. We may not have the cure or even the explanation for cancer. We may not be able to stop the wars and the injustices, but we don't have to throw up our hands in disgust or shake our fist in the face of God. We don't have to do that. we can make the world better. I'd like to invite you to turn to Matthew chapter 16. Matthew 16, verses 13 through 18. I want to look at something remarkable Jesus did to encourage his disciples. He was equipping them to lead the first century church, knowing